3 wishes. There was once upon a time, don't ask me when or where, a poor man and his wife. They were young, they had no children yet, they loved each other and understood each other, but their great poverty made them quarrel once in a while. Now, it so happened one day that the woman came home from the fields earlier than her husband, and she stewed and stewed about what to give him for supper. She made a fire and didn't know what else to do but put a pot of water on to boil for the usual bit of soup. Why were they so poor? She thought. Why couldn't she just once surprise her man with a fine supper? No sooner had she thought it than she heard a swishing sound, and there was a fairy standing before her. The poor little woman stared at her in hushed silence, for it was the first time in her life that she had seen a fairy. And the fairy spoke to her and said, "Well, I don't mind, you poor woman. If you want, you may have 3 wishes, and then I'll see whether you have your wits about you." With that, the fairy vanished the same way she had come. Well, the woman couldn't quite believe her eyes and ears, but her first wish was already flashing through her mind. She wished she had a yard of sausage, believing that nothing would come of it anyway. But then a moment later, she saw a pan descending from the blue, having come, no doubt, from the chimney. And there in it was a coil of nice sausage. All she had to do was put it on the fire, for there was even some lard in the pan. You can imagine the man's surprise when he came home and got a whiff of the good smells coming from the kitchen. When the woman told him what had happened, he stood all agape. But presently they began to argue about what the remaining 2 wishes should be. The man wanted a horse, a cow, a pig, his wife a few other things, and they couldn't agree. They kept on bickering, even forgetting that they were hungry. The husband became so excited that he wanted to smoke his pipe on an empty stomach at that. He filled it and reached out for a coal, but so clumsily that he upset the pan and spilled out the sausage. Of course, the woman was so frightened that she snatched at the sausage, trying to save it from the fire, and meanwhile gave her husband a good scolding. "Oh, if this sausage had only grown onto your nose instead of spilling into the flames!" Now, that was all that was needed. The yard of sausage was already dangling from the man's nose. It hung right down to his knees. At first she wasn't at all frightened. She just tried to tear it off his nose. But there, it stuck so tightly that it was impossible to rip it off. Now the poor little woman became so frightened that she burst into tears. They realized from this second wish that whatever their 3rd wish was for, it would certainly come to them. But what to do with the sausage? "Well, cut it off," the woman said. "I won't let you," he retorted. "Once it's here, the only way to get it back in the pan is to wish it back." "But then, what about the cow, the horse, and the pig?" she wailed. At that the man exclaimed, "You don't think I can go about with this as a moustache, do you? and you never kiss me with a yard of sausage dangling from my nose. So finally, there was nothing to do but wish the third wish. Let the sausage return to the pan. They sat down to dinner, but they didn't greatly enjoy the fine morsel. All the time they kept grumbling about which one was to blame for the fact that they would again be just as poor as they were before.